Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you are. Hello, thank you for watching my videos. It's Mike, it's April 16th, 2009. Here's a few little stories I've been watching and read this morning. The first one, of course, is Moody's. Moody's, the rating agency, has slashed mutuals' ratings in mass downgrade. Now, what does this mean? Okay, over in the UK, you have building societies. You have banks and you have building societies. Now, banks can do certain things, and building societies do different things. Now, primarily, building societies are into granting mortgages and for home purchases and so forth. Now, of course, with declining house prices in the UK, the ratings agencies have decided to cut the ratings on the bonds issued by the various building societies. And in some cases quite close to junk bond status. Now, of course, they haven't gone as far as actually making them junk bonds, because more than likely, if anything happened to the building societies in the UK government would step in and find some way of keeping the building society afloat, either as previously seen with Nationwide buying some, or other building societies consolidating. However, it's very worrying, and basically they did a test case. Well, what if peak to trough house prices dropped 40%, and their extreme case, what if they dropped 60%? What would this do to the companies, these building societies? So if you thought your money was safe, well, it still is. The FSA will still, of course, guarantee any deposits, but Moody's is stirring things up. Over here in North America, in Texas, Governor Perry backs a resolution affirming Texas sovereignty under the 10th Amendment. Now, I've linked two pieces here. There's a video, and there's also a press release from the governor's office. Basically, Governor Perry thinks that, yes, indeed, the legislature of the state of Texas should indeed reaffirm their 10th Amendment rights and basically tell Congress where to get off. So for those of you following this rather dramatic series of events in North America, in America, then this is a good thing to watch and a good thing to read. Now, CV 1122 did a piece day before yesterday, basically in this thing called Big Mother. Now, Mother is an acronym for a piece of legislature which has passed the Congress and is currently sitting in the Senate, called the Melanie Stokes Mums Opportunities to Access Health, Education, Research, and Support. Okay, so basically, the whole point here is I've linked CV 1122's video and also the full text of the Senate bill. Now, the Senate bill looks rather innocuous. It's basically, you know, wouldn't it be good if we made sure that newborn or new mothers, their mental health was verified, so that if they were suffering from postpartum depression, that perhaps they could get some extra help. Now, in and of itself, this is probably a good thing, but I'm kind of concerned, especially with what I've previously reported about CPS across the states, basically stepping in and saying, no, you're not a fit mother, we're going to take your baby away. So I'm just wondering if the CPS is going to use this as an excuse to take even more children away. So it's rather tricky, this one. Now, of course, I have some personal experience with postpartum depression, and it's not a good thing, and I welcome you know, mental health workers actually dealing with this kind of issue, and social workers and so forth, but we must be very careful in how it's actually applied and used. So I've linked the text of the Senate bill. I've also linked to a group called Unite for Life, where basically they're saying this is just a big excuse for the pharmaceutical companies to dish out a whole bunch of antidepressants, some of which can actually cause people to kill themselves. So interesting reading there. Now, US housing data puts Obama's hopes on hold. Basically, the US housing data came out, and it looks like the number of US citizens losing their homes leapt by 44% last month. In spite of major banks promising to work with troubled mortgage holders, almost 370,000 families have lost their homes so far this year in the States. And of course, there's other things in there. Then they start mentioning consumer prices and all that kind of nonsense. Now, a couple of other articles I've linked here along the same lines. Oil price sees deflation return to US for the first time since 1955. From the Independent in the UK. From the Telegraph in the UK, US annual inflation falls for the first time in 54 years, etc., etc. Now, basically saying, the consumer price index has fallen and is actually apparently negative. So, according to the US Bureau of Statistics, whichever one it happens to be here, they're saying that America is officially in deflation. Now, of course, when they do that, then they can, by officially saying that, they can then start doing things to hopefully inflate the economy. Now, of course, I have to step back here and mention, of course, what is inflation? Now, what's presented in the media, of course, is what's classically termed asset inflation and asset deflation. This has nothing to do with the original meaning of the word inflation. Inflation, in its original meaning, is the increase in monetary supply. Inflation, of course, from the Latin inflare, which means to blow up, to expand, to make bigger. And of course, classically, inflation in monetary supply is you print more money. And of course, deflation is a reduction in the monetary supply. So if you believe this Keynesian nonsense about M1 and M2 and M3 numbers, the M3 number is just tanking. Now, I've included a link to shadowstats.com. They did their latest release, basically goes into great detail about all this. But if you're not a subscriber, then you can't read it. But John Williams basically coming up with all kinds of really good reasons as to why none of this is real. I've linked an article from the Shadow Stats homepage as to what makes up CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and how they've been fiddling with it over the last few years. Now, the Shadow Stats number basically sees that the Consumer Price Index is increasing at a rate of roughly 7% right now. Additionally, of course, you should take a look at the unemployment numbers. They're almost touching 20% on Shadow Stats. So I thought I'd leave that information in your little heads. You can all think about it and try to understand, much as I did, what does this actually mean? What are they going to do now that deflation is official? What are they going to do to attempt to inflate the Consumer Price Index? And of course, the Consumer Price Index doesn't include basic food goods, because that would make sense. Which, of course, basic food goods are increasing in price. We see this a lot in the UK. It was quite dramatic. They're blaming it on the difference between the pound and the euro, and the fact that the pound is dropping against the euro. And an awful lot of fresh food is sourced from Europe, so of course it's more expensive to bring it in. So, and finally, Ambrose Evans Pritchard, talking yesterday in his article, last updated, this morning, very good. China State Reserve's Bureau has been buying copper and other industrial metals over recent months on a scale that appears to go beyond the usual rebuilding of stocks for commercial reasons. And he talks about some stuff that's going on. Taiwan's TMT Group, the head of this, Nobu Su, which ships commodities to China, said Beijing is trying to extricate itself from dollar dependency as fast as it can. So, of course, China's figured out all this nonsense about inflation and deflation and how the states are inflating the monetary supply, which in turn will devalue the dollar, hopefully slowly, but potentially rather quickly, which could result in China and their reserves going poof in a big pile of smoke. So what's China doing? They're taking the reserves and saying, right, forget the dollar, let's go put our money into something real. And so they're buying things like copper, they're buying platinum, they're buying aluminium, zinc, nickel, rarer metals such as titanium, indium, rhodium, and praseodymium. Never heard of that one. And of course, but they aren't buying gold yet. But I wonder if they're waiting for the IMF to start selling the IMF's gold before China rushes out and starts buying up that gold. Wait for the nice decline in price when suddenly supply increases dramatically. It's all getting very interesting. Okay, folks, peace, love, understanding, think about things, and I'll be back, hopefully before the end of the week, for more information. Okay.